Yes, the great football songbook. It's time to put away the acne cream. We're no longer teenagers. This is episode 20. What a list we have so far. Every club, it's a different story, a different anthem, usually too. And we always just open up this whole new chapter every time. And after a week in the Premier League, living it up with Manchester United, it's time to go back to proper football. But not before I introduce my regular partner in crime, the cool to my gang, the motor to my head, the 10 to my CC, and the only footballer ever to prefer King Crimson to King Kenny. And that's saying something given that he's a Scot. It's Pat Nevin. How you, mate?
Oh, hello. Great to be back again. King Crimson. Not heard that name for a long, long time. But always very, very impressive. Great musicians.
At 20 today, 20 episodes in, and it kind of feels like we've got so much further to go, yet we've done so much. I couldn't pick out my favourite one or even my top 3 or 5.
It's impossible. We have a million different places we want to go. It's been great fun so far.
Today, we're going here. Yeah, that's the Eton boating song. Pat will have a date, and I'll pass you over to Pat because I left school at 16. Pat.
Don't you suggest I was there when it was coming out. It was 1863, 100 years before I was born, right? The bit that gets me about this, right, Eton boating song, right? Football? I mean, where's the link? No, there is actually a link because, you know, a lot of the football started around about that time. But the big thing is Coventry City fans singing this going, what? It's an Eton boating song? I had no idea.
I think it's the first time, but who knows? There's so many ins and outs every story. But certainly it's the first time blatantly we started at the top where, it's not a war tune. It's not a gospel tune. It doesn't have a connection to church as such. And we're going, like, this is an elite song. This is about a public fee charging boarding secondary school. So it makes it a little bit of a unique start. But also, Pat, as we move on to what we're going to do and welcome our guests and talk about Coventry City, it feels like this is the first time that we're about to do a great football songbook as much about one man, Pat, as about a song.
Absolutely. Give one other little comment about the Eton boating song used in the London 2012 Olympics opening ceremony, which was absolutely brilliant. However, it's a good tune, and that's the most important thing. And a certain individual realised that, and it's not happened before, has it? You go and get the kind of guy who's helping to run the club, seen as Mr. Coventry City. Jimmy Hill, Pat writes it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know.
It's called the Sky Blue song. Look, this is how excited we're getting because our guest is going to do all this, but I'm with Pat. I'm overexcited. We're almost going to steal a little bit of the thunder of our special guest because not only is it that is amazing, right? Jimmy Hill co-wrote it, Mr. Sky Blue, but he changed the club colours to sky blue in the first place. So even the name of the track is because of him. Oh, let's stop there because we're going to make our guest cross because he's not just a proper fan and a proper historian. He's the creator and presenter of the Sky Blue History podcast. We wouldn't be doing Coventry City if he hadn't agreed to come on. We would have waited until he was ready. Jim Brown is here. Morning, Jim.
Morning, Colin. Morning, Pat.
Morning.
We're with you the whole way through. We just want to hear from you. So will you take us back to, I think we're going into 1962 and how the Sky Blue song became the anthem of Coventry City?
Well, Jimmy Hill had taken over as manager late 1961. And the start of the 1962-3 season, he, as you said, he changed the kit. He gave us an all sky blue kit, very continental style. But he told me many years ago that he wanted a song for Coventry City. I think he'd been to a lot of the Tottenham European games and he'd heard Glory, Glory, Hallelujah. And he mentioned other clubs like the Blaine Races with Newcastle. And he said the club needed a song. Now, this was a song not inspired by the fans. You know, I'm sure a lot of your songs come from the fans. This was Jimmy's song. He was the man that suggested it. He wanted a song that the fans could sing and inspire the team. And he had a fellow director, a guy called John Camkin, who was a pretty famous journalist back in the day. And the two of them, together with Mrs. Hill, sat down one night. They decided on the Eton Boating song, and they composed some words which fitted in with Coventry City. And the next thing is, he wanted to have a press conference. He got the national press up to Coventry to launch this song just before Christmas in 1962. So happened, Coventry Theatre's pantomime that year had Sid James, the famous comedian. So Jimmy, got the press conference at Coventry Theatre. He got Sid James in to sing the song with the players.
Amazing.
And they recorded it on a tape recorder. And the following Saturday, Coventry were at home to Colchester United. And Jimmy wrote a piece in the programme explaining what had happened. He printed the words that were to be sung. At half time, we're going to play the tape recording over the loudspeaker, and I want all you Coventry fans to sing along. Now, the interesting thing is, it's called the Sky Blues song now, but the nickname the Sky Blues hadn't really taken off. And he called it the Coventry promotion song in the programme. So the Colchester game came. It was the Saturday before Christmas. Thick fog enveloped the pitch just before half time. And the referee, after a lot of consultation, decided to abandon the game at half time. But it didn't stop Jimmy playing the tape recording, and the fans loved it from that very first day.
I don't even know where this clip I'm going to play, by the way, is the one from that day. It's a thing I found, which is definitely black and white footage of Jimmy Hill singing it with the crowd at Coventry and then in the dressing room with the players. I'm going to play it in just a second. But there's a lovely little caveat that about how he wrote this, or co-wrote the song, chose the song, changed the colour of the kit, printed it in the programme. Jimmy Hill's responsible for having the idea for the first fully fledged match day programme in English football. So not only did he invent all that, the actual programme that it was printed in was his idea. And here's how it sounded back then. Pat, just come in this story for me of what we've heard so far.
First of all, it should not work. What an inauspicious song start. Sky Blue song, fog. It's just completely wrong. Do you know what?
Didn't even think of that, so true.
And then on top of that, it's the club hierarchy saying, right, you will all come down here and you will all sing this and you'll all take it on board. And almost every other club fans would say, get stuffed. We will do our own. Right. So none of it works. But the thing about Jimmy was such a trailblazer in so many areas. I mean, apart from being the punditry stuff and the fact that he also became, a presenter, the Gary Lineker of his time. Do you know what Jimmy Hill and I have in common, Colin?
It's not success.
No, I'll kill you for this one. It's very good, this one. So we were both chairman of the PFA. And Jimmy was the man who absolutely started that. So a lot of Jimmy's history, I know a huge amount about it. But this part of it, I absolutely didn't. And the other thing to say about it, that version you played there, Jimmy's got a nice, pleasant baritone, hasn't he? When he sings.
I'm going to get to a version where you can really hear him sing it in just a second, but let's pick up the story there. So the original lyrics, Jim Brown, that we were just listening to, they've changed since.
Right, the first version, we were in the 3rd division, so our big rivals were Northampton and Peterborough. So Jimmy's words were proud, posh or cobblers, And then he wanted the next line to be that day's opponents or anyone. So it was Proud Posh or Cobblers, Oysters or anyone. Now that is a mistake. Colchester United have never been the Oysters. The Oysters was the nickname of a previous Colchester team, because Colchester in those days was famous for oysters. But, Colchester have always been the U's. So Jimmy actually made a mistake there. But what he did, every home game, he printed the words again in the programme with that day's opponents, their nickname in that line. Moving on a couple of years, we got promotion to the second division, and it changed to Wild Wolves or Bolton, because they were second division opponents. And then in 1967, when we got promotion to the first division, it became Tottenham or Chelsea, United or anyone. Iron United never changed. And to this day, it stayed with those words.
Yeah. I like it. United or anyone kind of works for me because United belongs to so many clubs. Although people might immediately think Manchester United, but you don't if you're town, if you're in there. That would work for Call You. So I like the use of United there. I get what I mean. It's got to update and it's got to go through. But Jim, what baffles me, innovators, even to this day, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, people immediately have such an allergic reaction to change. A lot of the time they're right. He comes in, he never played for Coventry City. He wasn't like a returning hero to manage the club. Yet within that space of time, the electronic scoreboard got the players doing media interviews, commissioned the first all-seater stadium in England at Highfield Road, colour match day programme, showing it in CCTV on the giant screens. 3 points for a win. Football Association, as Pat just said. And the idea of using football pundits on television, by the way, a panel, is from him. Why did Coventry embrace the sweeping change that he brought? What was his Midas touch, Jim?
I think we'd had so many years of mediocrity. New managers coming in every other year, promising to get us promotion from the third division. We languished there since the early 50s. And also, the city was a booming city. The car factories were booming because of the 1960s spending boom. We were just ripe for revolution, if you like.
Pat, it doesn't add together, but Jim's explained it perfectly. The club was like, you know what? Something has to change. And if this crazy horse is going to bring that change, then so be it. Come hell or high water, Pat. That's brilliant.
And it's the personality of Jimmy Hill. He was on the front foot of just about everything in football at the time, but also the fact that he was forward thinking. And he'd have thought, that one's ripe for me.
The other thing, obviously, a new manager has to bring success on the field. If he hadn't had that success on the field, maybe the Sky Blue song wouldn't have been as successful.
Has it endured the entire time? Because you have been a club that have moved about and changed ground so many times.
It has always endured. You will always hear a rendering of the Sky Blue song, home or away, every single game.
In many ways, you've hit on the two keys there. The fuel to any anthem will often be success at the time. When it's first sang in those first couple of years, we find so often doing this, Jim, that there's success, but then also the true measure of an anthem is when it's with you in the dark times as well.
The cup run and the freeze of early 1963 meant we had to play about 12 games in May, and we just ran out of steam and didn't get promotion. But we did get promotion to the second division the following season. And then 3 years later, we won the second division title, and the club came into the first division for the very first time. And that recording you played was at the game against Wolves when there were 51,000 in Highfield Road for what Jimmy described as the Midlands match of the century.
Yes.
We were already both promoted, and this game was going to decide where the title went. And the Sky Blues won it 3-1. Jimmy led the fans who were all on the pitch. He was stood in the director's box with the players, and he led the song that day.
Did he sing it on the last home game at Highfield Road?
He did, yes. They wheeled him out with a lots of former players, and he led it 2005.
Well, here it is, Pat. You wanted to hear how good Jimmy Hill was at singing. Have a listen.
Let's all sing.
of that, Pat?
Just hold that note. I mean, that is so impressive. Look, it's not perfect. There's the odd dud note in there, but it's the fans behind it belting it out as well when he was doing it. I thought that was. Yeah. I think that's very moving.
It moves me. And, you know, Pat, we've been to Wembley in 1987. It was sung loud and proud then. We've had 4 trips to Wembley in the last 7 years. And every time the hairs on the back of my neck tingle when that's sung. You know, we've had 40,000 plus fans at Wembley singing that. And they all know the words.
When Jimmy Hill passed away, the outpouring of love for him from every Coventry City fan in Coventry Cathedral at the celebration of Jimmy Hill's life, this happened. Actual ceremony, Pat, it's unbelievable, and never is. I don't think in any of the stories we've told or probably will tell is one man going to have so much influence on the musical DNA of a club and beyond that.
He was an absolute star of his time and deeply, deeply loved. And by the way, you'll notice most of the people who run football clubs aren't that deeply loved. There's only a few that survive it. And he stayed that way.
100% perfectly said. And of course that was in a cathedral. And Jim Brown will tell us if you want a cathedral, that's not a problem, because they also sing in our Coventry homes. A song that's been bastardised a lot and is usually used as an insult. But Coventry have held on to that song, in our Coventry homes. And it sounds just brilliant, Jim. But you already know what I need to get in, because a track was released in 2007 by a bunch of Coventry lads. That is definitely the B-side, at very least the B-side now at Coventry City. And they're called The Enemy, and they're probably Coventry born and bred. And it is just such an interesting song for fans to sing. If you don't know of this, it's called We'll Live and Die in These Towns. I think I sang on stage with The Enemy at a student ball when I was in Radio 1, but foggy times. Jim, this is all Coventry, isn't it? From start to finish. I'll fade it up for the chorus, but tell us a bit.
It is. It's a song that's been adopted by the fans in the last year, 18 months. And it just has taken off, and it's now sung before, just as the players are about to kick off. It comes over the tannoy, and the fans just embrace it and sing it loud and proud.
For people who haven't heard Coventry fans sing this, get ready for every hair to bristle. But Jim, pick up again. Yes, so this is week in, week out with Coventry City fans.
Yes, before the kick-off. And then at Wembley last year for the FA Cup semi-final with Manchester United, 30-odd thousand Coventry fans singing this. It was brilliant.
In an unscripted, not pre-planned great football songbook, you know I'm going to play exactly what you just talked about. This is sensational. Interested, Pat Nevin, to get your take on Coventry City fans singing these lyrics in particular, the enemy will live and die in these towns.
Yeah, how, if you get a chance to look at the lyrics, there is no way in the world anybody outside Coventry is allowed to say that. But you can say it about yourselves. That's all right, because it's quite vicious. And it's kind of not nasty in any way, but, the dark sides and the difficult sides of your city, that can actually be sung about by yourselves.
You've nailed it, though. And it relates to so many towns up and down the nation. That contradiction of pride and contempt, of love and hate, of positive and negative. And as long as it's your own town, you can say what you want. But I have never, ever heard 20, 30, 40,000 people singing it. And Jim, I think it's genuinely, Pat's right, use the word visceral. And also one of the best modern day songs you will ever hear at a ground. In fact, I'll go further. This is going right up my list on the Great Football Songbook, whether it comes from 1861 or it comes from 2007. Do you get that vibe when you're in the stand singing it every week?
Yeah, I do. And it's not my era music-wise, and I'd never heard of the Enemy's song until it was sung by the Coventry fans. But now the whole stadium claps along. Okay, maybe not everybody knows the verses, but everybody knows the choruses and belts it out. And it's very, very moving.
I mean, Holt Enders in the Sky comes into my head, Pat, and this idea of life and death, of lifelong commitment to your town and your club. And it especially works here because Coventry, it's that one club. So it has that kind of feeling, Pat, that we've talked about, that you will be 6 foot under before anyone will question the love of the football team you support.
The joy of this part of the show that we're doing just now, we probably went into this thinking about ancient history, didn't we? What about modern history? Just as important. And we're, in this song, actually feeling it. We're seeing the effect of it. So as a cultural, historic artefact, actually, it's really, really important. So it's lovely to be in the middle of one that's happening now.
Jim Brown, we had such high expectations for the Coventry edition of the Great Football Songbook, and we can find out so much more, spoken so brilliantly by you on your podcast, the Sky Blue History podcast, which you created and you present, and no wonder every Coventry fan and beyond needs to listen to that. Jim Brown, thank you so much, and I think Pat and I might have to put on false beards and baseball caps and come and sing We'll Live and Die in These Towns one day in the terrace, so we'll give you a call when we're going to do that.
Definitely.
Jim Brown there. Pat, another one in the bag and something very different again. I'm telling you, Pat, it's not hyperbole. You know what I think of the likes of Sunshine and Leith? But that's going right up there for me, and it's the B-side.
Yeah, it is, because you can feel the power. And power's important in these sorts of things.
Love it. Well, you talked about feelings, Pat. Next week in the Great Football Songbook, we're feeling